No
Okay.
problem. So, uh, slide, slide, ooh, slide 3. Um, I think we talked about this. Um, I wanted to also ask, how
I
have you
can see it
guys?
now.
Okay, cool. Wendy, how have you been determining your planting time in the past?
It's felt unstructured, and I don't like that. I know I'm
Okay.
supposed to have a plan, um, but I've had a hard time
Okay.
remembering having a. I don't have a sheet. I'm like looking at my, millions of packets of seeds.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, just it's not good.
Okay. Uh,
I feel you guys.
Melissa, is that what's been your determination when you start doing something in your garden?
Well, I was told that the first and last frost dates are the two scariest days of the year, tax day and Halloween.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been using that to like
Yeah.
start with. And
Right.
so I go off the packets and start them like I kind of like just look at a calendar, and then I say, okay, this is my last frost date, and then I just
Yeah.
do the math, like 6 weeks before. Okay,
Okay. Great. So that sounds good. Nice job, you guys. Gardening is beautiful. Let's hit it out of the ballpark this year. Uh, so what I've been doing is I've been keeping my CSA short, just to 10 weeks, so I don't burn out. I've already told you guys, but you could do 20. Um, as you just mentioned, Melissa, there's a final kill freeze in the spring and the fall, and that's an important milestone. So there's the go by that you did is pretty good, actually. I can show you some of the best web pages I found with it. The kill freeze is a probability, so there's a 50% probability date, and there's a 60, 70, and there's like a 90% probability date, and then it's kind of historically considered. And then if you have 32 degrees as your temperature, you're going to have a different day than if you're more sensitive and you say your kill freeze is at like 37 or 39. So there, how you find the date depends on what temperature and how certain you want to be of that day. So there's some probability in there. And then once you do have your date, there's always considerations to like the how much moisture is in the air, and if it's a clear night or not. And they usually don't even measure temperature on the ground; it's like above the ground. So there's a few things in there where there's some sensitivities that if it's around your kill freeze day, you're going to put a bunch of transplants out and you notice it's clear weather, like to have some concern about that. So we'll talk about that. And then the seed packages, that's always a good starting point. And then kind of my hero is Steve Solomon, and he talks about different plant families would have different sensitivities. So just getting intuition about what to be careful with, what plants, and then the spreadsheets we use and those websites I was mentioning. So kill freeze, what's the difference between a frost and a freeze? So a frost can happen like around 36 degrees, and the ice crystal forming when water vapor condenses and freezes without first becoming dew. Um, so when you have a light frost, um, this is the mechanics happening. When you have a hard freeze, um, so I have here a light freeze is um, at freezing or a little bit below, and can kill tender plants. A moderate freeze would be like 28 to 25. And this is usually called the kill freeze, but for my purposes, I focus on 32. So the dates that I use are 32 and below. I want to start with that for my planting. And then this website I was looking at had a severe freeze um, as well, below 24 degrees. So uh, this is the web page that I like. It's this called plantmaps.com, and you can actually, it does a 90% certainty on like 32 degrees. So here in Eagle Creek, where I'm at, it uses April 21, and I had been using April 19th because I found something in Oregon City earlier. But so this is lines up with what I had been using. And Melissa, when is tax day? Is that the 15th?
Yeah, I think so. The
Yeah,
15th.
right. So tax day is conservative for Eagle Creek. Melissa, you might want to use this calculator and take a peek at where you're at. It might be a week or so different in the city. I sent a Mac version of this URL, so I'll send just the website after we chat. So I don't think that came through very well. And then Steve Solomon's even a little bit more conservative, so he's basically giving recommendation for um, all kinds of places in Portland. So he uses May 2nd, which is I think a little conservative since we can dial it in right here to a closer date. But and then he uses October 6th, which is also he's being conservative because he's trying to give recommendation for a large area. So um, that is the starting point, is that kill freeze, and most of the packages here, you know, the let's see, sowing outdoor, sowing outdoor, so sowing indoor. So if we're going to do transplanting with cabbage, it says typical 6 weeks before average last frost date. So I would use the last kill freeze, and then I would use the 6 weeks. There is first, there's some reasons why you might use a different buffer for this uh, 90 days here. So the 90 days kind of depends on a few things, and we'll see that in the. I'm going to use Johnny's for you guys for the web example of a target crop date, and so that this 90 days will flex depending on some uncertainties. But this 6 weeks before the kill freeze, this can consistently be your early. If you want to get something in early, this is the earliest you could do it. So um, that's more dialed in. Whereas this number over here, like days to harvest, is has a lot of like a few weeks of flex depending on a couple like if you're planting in the middle of the summer, or if you're planting towards the fall, or if you're you know how it's getting germinated. So um, this temperature here, soil temperature for germination. So I like to, when I do my transplants, I like to keep it at between 65 and 75 with a heat mat to get the most germination. And so when you direct sow and you are actually out in the field with that temperature, it is worth kind of maybe taking a thermometer out to the soil, and if you need to dial in with germination, even checking the soil temperature outside. And if you're plenty past the kill freeze, but you're like the soil is still like very cold, that's an easy way to catch that there might be an issue still with the germination. And maybe if it's a sensitive crop and you want to get it in, maybe to germinate it inside. All right, this next one is the different families. So, eggplant, peppers, and tomatoes are sensitive. These are crops that you wouldn't want to push the envelope with that kill freeze date. So this slide down here, I'm on slide 9. It's Steve Solomon's year-round planting calendar, and you'll see he has like tomatoes way down here, like in May. So he's not putting tomatoes up here, like in April, right at the kill freeze. So that guide is kind of helpful. And legumes, these are much more hardy. So like beans, you might even overwinter a rye vetch or something and have it and compete against like a hard freeze and survive that. And salads, like spinach, you can get an early crop of spinach and you'd be okay, and like some of the lettuces you can. So these are less sensitive than this family up here. And then brassicas are classic hardy plants. So like kale, you could even like overwinter that. I know Wendy, you talked about a winter garden, so that would be something where maybe once it gets going, you're not worrying about the planting schedule as much, or maybe germinating it inside, but not making sure it gets established in the fall, and then letting it go through the winter. And the kale just like changes taste, and I think it gets better as the winter goes on and changes. If there's the cabbages that are hard cabbages that can handle a winter, and they also change taste during the temperature. Roots, then I don't know how to say this one, cucurbits. These ones are super sensitive. So the squash, you can easily lose a squash crop by planting it too soon, or in the fall, as you guys probably know, it'll be like a dramatic termination once it's done. And then alliums are more resistant. We leave our garlic out over the winter. So with that, I'm sure you guys are already kind of familiar with this. This was kind of cool for me to figure out this family thing.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, I know about the things that have survived when I plant them late, but I didn't have everything grouped into really clear families.
Isn't that cool? I know. This is Steve Solomon again, so I just kind of scanned out of his book. Growing vegetables.
Yeah, that's really neat. I just want to jump in real quick and say, if I disappear for a second, Zoom's kind of crashing and restarting on me. So
okay.
It seems to be working good when it works, but just in case, like if you say something and I don't respond, just
okay.
Just give me a second. I'm coming back. I have like very limited internet here. I'm like really kind of really primitive.
Oh, that's good. It's better maybe. Okay, so did you get this slide here? Slide 7 with the cabbage?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went over slide 9, has Steve Solomon's kind of when to plant what families when kind of thing. So we saw that squash was like not up here in April. He has it in May 15th. And how the cucurbits are more sensitive. And you've probably seen your squash die at the end of the year quite quickly, maybe with a freeze.
Yeah, I've done cucumbers, but not squash yet.
Okay, cool. My son loves lemon cucumbers, so they're so prolific. It's amazing. Okay, so maybe now switching to some of the spreadsheets. So I sent you the um, planting schedule spreadsheet, uh, and the next slide is looking at just a screenshot of that. So actually, I should just open it up since I got it right here. So we use this spreadsheet to kind of guide us as we're, planning work, kind of like a high level. What are we going to plant when? What are we going to plant next week? Type stuff. Do we have enough? How many times do we have to do succession planting, stuff like that, in order to get what we need? These are this is supposed to be months here, I think. January, February, March, April, May, June. And then, I mean, you could totally push the limits with your garden, but I'm shooting for July here. So if it's in pink, it means I'm gonna be trying to have a harvest of these crops in this month. And then, in August, I'm gonna have another full month of CSA, and then in September, I'm gonna do like the first 2 weeks. So basically, by September, I'll have enough stuff going. We'll have enough stuff going. We can just ride the wave. We don't really need to like have a full planting for September. Can get everything harvested, and then I won't have a bunch of extra produce to deal with to clean up before I put the cover crop in again. So some things like like this first column is lettuce. So I'm specifically thinking about little gem, and it's pretty fast. It's a 40-day from germination to harvest, and so I'm going to let's go to one of these ones that I'm transplanting. It'll be easier to walk through. So cabbage here, it's 90 days from germination to harvest, and then my little calculator here does the earliest planting date. Just that kill freeze. I'm going to use one week to be conservative. So instead of April 19th, I'm going to use April 26th, and I'm going to minus 42 days down here. Good. So the kill freeze minus the days, it's 6 weeks, but in about a month and a half, the root ball is strong enough you can transplant it pretty easily. So they usually say a month and a half for brassicas. And so that date would be March 15th is the earliest possible day I would want to start transplants if I was trying to push the envelope. And then I mentioned the temp for the germination just because I will, if it's 75 to 85 versus like 65, I kind of like do the heat mat differently. And then the earliest harvest date I could possibly get would be like the date that I start the transplants plus 90 days would be June. So if I want, so June 15th, middle of June is when I could get a crop without probably risking too much. So this is good to have just so you can kind of get a benchmark for what you can do with the crop. And then what I actually am going to do is I'm going to put, July 4th is our first Sunday pickup, and that's the date I really want to have something ready. And then from there, I'm just going to work backwards from the germination to harvest duration. This is a 90-day to harvest, and then I'm going to get a approximate transplant. So April 5th would be the date that I would start cabbage. And maybe if I want real decent sized cabbage on our first pickup, maybe I'd start it earlier, but at least on if I started on April 5th, I'd probably get something, a small cabbage that I could give out. So there's that consideration too, is this is just like the beginning of the harvestability. And so here I just made a start transplant in April per my decision here, and then counted out the 3 months to the first harvest in July. And then I knew I wanted cabbages kind of gets a little bit funky. I don't always there's like bugs get in there and stuff. So probably I would do two smaller plantings instead of one huge planting. And so maybe the second planting would be a month from April, May 5th, and then have that harvest be in August for that. Any questions on? Oh yeah, so this is all transplant stuff. I transplant the lettuce too, but there's some stuff that would be direct sown, so maybe it would be a simpler simpler schedule for those.
How do you make that decision what you want to transplant? Because I remember reading that transplanting can sometimes make the plant weaker, but it just seems like it's so much more reliable.
Right. Yeah, so because the roots are never constrained, right? So squash, I kind of think about the roots a lot. Is this something that I can transplant without traumatizing its root ball? And so all these brassicas here, they are completely happy, and they make a nice little root ball that's contained. And when you take it out of the tray, you can just plant it in the soil. No problemo. It's happy as a pie. But any kind of like squash or cucumber or melon, those you have to actually get quite a large transplant pot. You can't just use the smaller 50 plugs, because you need to kind of like scoop it out gently and then put it in the mound out in the field without disturbing it. And you can't really touch the root because it doesn't make a root ball. It's just kind of in there. So those kind of things, they don't transplant very well. And I try to transplant a lot just because it helps with row cropping. Like if I can get the weeds here to be, if I like flame torch them or till them or have some kind of stale seed bed for carrots, and then the bed is ready, it's already germinated, I already killed the weeds, or I just tilled it, and then I put this transplant in, it's got a jump start on all of the weeds, so that's a consideration too, is how much work is managing those weeds going to be. Yeah. And then also, like, if it's really small seed, like, it's ridiculous, you can't transplant it. So like radish, like that, you need too many, so you would just use a seed. You just use a seeder for radish, like just get it in. And like carrot, maybe the trick with carrot would be to get it pelletized so you can like drop it equally with a seeder, or trying to make seeding easier instead of trying to do this. And if with a carrot specifically, it takes so long to germinate. Like there's called a stale seed bed, where you till it, you let the seeds germinate, and then you kill the weed seed, maybe flame it or something, or just you could just uh, use like a hoe on a hot day, and then you plant the carrot seed into there. So I mean, there's other ways you can manage weeds too besides just transplant. So this will be good. Like we can walk through this again and again and again. You can see I'm just starting to develop it for this year. I bought a bunch of new stuff from Territorial Seed, so it's good to kind of like get a sense of what my plan is. It's going to totally change because whether or not I can get on the soil in April will depend on the how much it rained, and maybe like whenever the potatoes come from I think we're getting from Johnny's, then they're time sensitive, so I might try to push putting in stuff by hand just because the potatoes need to get in or something. But this is a good target, just so you can. This is a target to have produce at a certain time for consistency. So that and with that, I wanted to show you. I'll just cut in now. I wanted to show you Johnny's calculator. So this is Johnny's selected seed. They're great. They have a lot of good reference material, and they have a good philosophy on how they source seeds. They're responsible. They have higher germination rate than a lot of places, so these might cost a little bit more, but they're going to germinate, whereas another seed company might not have the high germination rate for a pass. And under this is under their online tools, planting tools, and calculators. Under this plant section, seed starting date calculator. These are really super cool. This is similar to what I was talking about. Succession planting, a specific calculator just for that. And then this is the one I want to show you guys, the target harvest date calculator. So this one, if you open it, they have the same kind of approach. Zoom in a little bit. So you have like this date of event. So let's say this is the first CSA pickup. We want to have stuff ready for that day. So it would be July 4th here. Then here we would have a bunch of stuff that we want to provide for the customers. And then here would be the days to maturity that's on the package. And then here they have a spring fall factor. So if it's like in the fall, you might want to add a week just because it's not going to be growing as fast as the middle of summer, or if it's early spring. So they have that. And then here's that full production factor I was mentioning. So maybe you don't want to just have broccoli, small broccoli heads. You want to have a decent sized broccoli. So this days to maturity is going to be to a small broccoli. So they add a week here to get a decent sized head of broccoli. Yeah, I know, it's cool. And then this one is days before event that the crop will be harvested. So, sometimes I might ask you guys to harvest a few days, half a week before for the crop that will be on this day. So you can just kind of sneak in a couple more days here. And then, I don't know what this is. Seedling. Oh, this is the last result. So this column is saying when you would put the seed in, start a transplant or direct sow here. So this is cool. They did a good job. And all these other spreadsheets they have are cool too. This one's probably, I haven't even looked at this one, but so I'll send you that link to that link. It was, I think I already mentioned it, but I sent it as a Mac link, and then I'll send you that cool freeze webpage. Then, so once they're planted, go back to once our seeds are planted, then it's a matter of tracking stuff. So I'm gonna probably pull out the expected harvest date depending on how much granularity I have on the other spreadsheet I just showed you. But this spreadsheet is, like an actual map, rows from north. So this is like greenhouse stuff. If it's row 1, it's like on the east side of my garden. And you can see in 2018, I planted, this is artichokes, sorry. And then in row 2, I field planted, I started it as a transplant and I planted it in the field on this date. So kind of like it's important to know like when you got it in the field from when you started it, and then maybe like reporting like how many row feet. I had like 300 row feet of whatever this was, and just so we can get a quick sense of like how much we have out there and when we planted it, and then it has like notes on the backside. So this is more like a crop, tracking, field tracking list, and I include stuff like that tasted really good. I need this carrot variety was amazing, and I fertilized it on this date, something like that, or the germination was horrible on these, but they're also like super old seeds. I was like trying to push like 2016 seed. So, and also I got it from here, and these people territorial allows a lower germination rate to be okay. Oh, actually, I got my stuff from Johnny's this year, so maybe we'll do better. So this is more of a tracker. You probably went like you plan out with something like this where you have a target date, and then maybe you would track, if you're doing row cropping, track it with something like this. And then that's it. That's the intro. I would just kind of reference Johnny's again because I like it so much. And oh yeah, let me show you. Oh yeah, we already looked at the Freeze web page and that stuff. Okay, what do you guys think?
Great. I love how they're pre-made.
Yeah, I know, and they look nice too. Like mine are a bit messy. Johnny's it's a good start.